Hello there and welcome to another episode of HomeTech.fm. Jason Griffin here. So happy to have you with us, and I'm joined as always by my partner Seth. Seth, how's it going?
Good, man. How was the holiday? How was the Christmas holiday?
Oh man, it was really good. Yeah, I did a little traveling down to Arizona where my parents live, and that's kind of typical for us to go down there for Christmas and hang out with them for the holiday. And as always, had a great time down there. They heated up the pool, got to do a little swimming. It was actually slightly cold by Arizona standards, kind of hovering in the 50s there, which is nothing like here at home where I live in Colorado, where I think it's about 8 degrees outside right now as we're sitting and recording. But again, by Arizona standards, a little cool, but overall beautiful. Had a great time. How was your Christmas?
A little bit warmer.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw some of your posts on Facebook. Looked tropical.
Yeah, I was on the phone outside, actually talking to my parents and, wishing them a Merry Christmas. And I walked around the corner and there's like a 4-foot iguana sunning itself in the 85-degree weather that we had on Christmas Day.
Wow. Yeah, I saw the you had mentioned that it was 85 degrees, and that far from a white Christmas, I guess.
No, yeah, very far from it. I was wearing shorts and flip-flops all day. Really, really strange. It's usually a lot cooler this time of year. So when you said you had to warm up the pool, we were thinking about going to the beach that day.
Wow.
Like, it was so hot. So yeah. Good Christmas this year. Overall though, I had a really, really good time. Ate a lot of food, and just had enough.
Always fun.
Yeah, had some time to do a little like home improvement projects, and dusted off some old boxes I had in the garage. And
oh, awesome. What you got cooking over there?
Well, you can remember a couple of show backs, and I mean a couple of shows, like maybe 50 of them back.
Just a couple.
Maybe more than 50, maybe like 70 back, where I said I had purchased a Z-Wave lock.
Yep, I recall.
Well, as it turns out, I never installed it because we ended up moving. And when we moved, I did install it at the new house, and we only used it kind of as a construction lock. So we gave the guys a code that needed to come in the house, and they would come in and open up the house using that code and do the work, and then, leave at the end of the day, and they push the little button, it would lock. And it's been sitting in the door for like a year now, and I'm looking at it going, oh yeah, that's a connected lock. I should probably hook that up to something.
Funny how that goes.
Exactly. And I realized, oh yeah, along the way, I had purchased one of those Vera lights a long time ago, and it's been sitting in the garage collecting dust too, because I just haven't had time to kind of open it up and mess with it. So I got them all paired up and working together.
Okay.
It was kind of fun. I kind of want to put my thoughts together on it a little bit more. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. But yeah, it's an interesting little product, interesting system for kind of the basic stuff that we've talked about, like the basic home automation, lights, locks, thermostats. I don't know. It looks like you can do a lot of AV past that, but I don't know if I would recommend that to anybody. It looks like a more power beyond the power user features from what I can tell, like superpower users.
Right. Well, yeah, keep us posted as you move forward with it, and we'll look forward to hearing more about your experiences with that product. I don't have any direct experience with Vera personally, and so I'd be curious myself to hear a little bit about how it goes. But let's jump into our show here. We're actually going to do kind of an abbreviated episode here. We're cramming this one in between the holidays, and we hope that everybody listening is having a great holiday season and that you had a great Christmas. And this show is actually going to air on New Year's Day. So if you're listening to this, recently after it airs, we wish you a happy New Year. And we wanted to get a show out and just talk about a couple of stories that we saw come across this week, sort of related to the CEDIA channel, and one about Control 4 that we thought we'd sit down tonight and just address real quick.
Yeah, well, yeah, CES is right around the corner. I mean, this show will go, like you said, go live on the 1st. We got a couple days, and then CES hits. So that's going to be the huge news coming up. I think everything's dead right now because everybody's getting ready for CES. So we're definitely going to have a lot more to talk about next week.
Yeah, it has been a little bit quiet, and we do look forward to CES as always. It's one of those shows. It's just so large that the biggest challenge in my experience with CES has always been kind of parsing out the stories that are significant or relevant to me as a home technology guy and a professional home automation, smart home guy. Just sort of cutting through a lot of the noise at CES. And I know last year when we put our show out, kind of a CES wrap up, that was really our goal, was to pull out a lot of those relevant stories and keep an eye on the show. Not so much for the gadgets and all that stuff, which is great and fun to watch, but we really want to try to parse through all that information and give our listeners our thoughts on what was relevant and important at the show. And we look forward to doing that this year as well.
Yeah, I think this year is going to be a little tougher for you in general, because all the rumors are saying that this CES 2016 is going to be full of wearables.
Oh, boy.
And if I know you... Oh, man. So it should be kind of interesting to see what comes out in the world of wearable technology and what people are trying to do with that. I mean, as far as you and I are concerned, like how that integrates into the home.
Right.
Yep. I know you're excited about that. I'm warming up to the idea, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting possibilities there, and it's always a category that I'm excited to watch and see the development in. I think that it has a ways to go before it really becomes a relevant technology to a broad kind of range of the market. But again, I just think the possibilities to where wearable technology can start to interface with the other technology around us, as in home technology and TVs or what have you, I think is intriguing and something I'm always curious to watch. But I do think that the term in general, wearables, has become such a catch-all that it's really hard to use it with any sort of specificity. And so we've got to sort of watch the show and just try to pick out the stories that really are relevant and pertinent to what we're talking about here on Home Tech.
Yeah, and I wonder with like the success of Amazon Echo over the last 12 months, or I can't even remember when it came out. It was somewhere around May, I guess, is when we got ours. I wonder like what the relevance of the wearables will. I guess I'm wondering is how will people stake out what wearables will do in the house? Like with how well done the voice control was done with Amazon Echo and how they've shown that technology to work. Like I'm really curious to see what people have come up with wearable controls and where that goes. Does it augment the voice control, or does it like how does it all like integrate together? I'm really curious as to what their thought process is. And I'm sure somebody's come up with something really cool. We're just going to have to keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, time will tell. I mean, I think the main possibilities that I'm intrigued by are things like micro-location and gesture control, and where wearable technology might help bridge the gap to make those technologies a reality, using things like Bluetooth to track our location on a micro level within the home and things like that. So again, broad category, kind of tough to summarize in a quick bullet point, but definitely something that I'm intrigued to watch. And I do think there's a lot of technology that kind of falls into that category too, that's just sort of a dud and not going to go anywhere. Just like everything with CES, there's a lot of people there showing off their latest thing and really just trying to figure out what has legs, right? And that's kind of the big thing that I always look forward to with CES. It's a really fun show to watch.
Right. I think somebody describes it as like CES is just basically a show of like dreams and like
right.
And most of them will never come true, but like this is what people are dreaming about, and they bring it all to the show. They show it all off. It's all cool stuff. Will most of it be on the market at the end of 2016? Probably not. But it's still really neat to see what people have come up with and what they think might be able to sell out in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I think I know that Savant is going to be there again this year. I know they were there last year, and I think last year was their first time there, but I could be wrong on that. In any event, I think that Savant being at CES is an interesting story, and I'll be curious just to kind of keep a pulse on what they're doing there and how they're received, at least to the extent that I can gauge that watching from a distance. The other thing that I'm always kind of interested to watch at CES and keep an eye on is the Connections Summit, which, if you're not familiar with that, is put on by the large research firm Parks Associates, and that's all about the Internet of Things. And there's a lot of big players that get involved in that, and really just talking about the evolution of all this connected technology on a real kind of broad level. And that's always something that sort of overlaps with CES, and I find pretty interesting to watch as well.
Yeah, while you were saying that, I did a little quick search on our website, went back to show number 46, and that's our CES 2015 wrap up. I was kind of scrolling through to kind of see all of the products that we were talking about back then. There was a lot of HomeKit. Everybody was excited about that, and people were going to be showing off HomeKit. We did a lot about some baby stuff that you were looking at.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I recall. Yep. Oh yeah.
And we were talking pretty heavily on quantum dot technology and Samsung super ultra high definition 4K TVs, which all have. Yeah, I'm not sure about the quantum dot stuff, but I
haven't heard as much about that.
Yeah, the SUHD TV, like the 4K Samsung TVs, that those have definitely hit the market and hit the ground running. I mean, I think most people are looking at 4K TVs this year, or buying them. I know that we're kind of in the market for another TV for a living room area, and definitely like it's a larger format TV, and I'm like, I could buy a 1080p because that's all I really need. Or I could just spring to get the 4K, and just thinking about it, like I'm not going to replace that TV as often as I would a smaller TV, because I probably won't have the money or cash to spring for a 65-inch screen anytime in the near future. So why not get the 4K and have a nice picture on it? So that's that's one of those things. It's like I'm glad that's running. We also did a lot of talking about this interesting concept called hubs, like Wemo. Yeah. So
that's cool.
Just funny to go back and kind of look at this stuff and the different things that we were talking about at that point in time. We even have the worst section that we had picked up where selfie sticks.
The worst of CES. Yep. Yeah.
Selfie sticks. There was a selfie brush.
That's right. I remember
that. A selfie hairbrush. You can comb your hair and then take a selfie of yourself.
How funny. Well, I'm glad you pulled that up. It's interesting to go back and see what we were talking about last year, and we'll be interested, a year from now to sit and look at what we were talking about this year. So I think good call pulling that up. As you were talking about that, Seth, you mentioned not having the money to spring for a 65-inch TV, and I thought that segued kind of nicely into our second story here that I wanted to touch on, again, more from the CEDIA side of things. And that is the announcement this past week that Control4 will be partnering with a company called GreenSky, which is a financial services company. I actually pulled up their website, and they sort of actually bill themselves as a financing company kind of aimed at the home improvement industry, which I thought was interesting. And they'll be partnering up together to offer consumer financing options. So as a Control4 dealer, you will now be able to go to a prospective client who may be interested in a home technology system, but maybe just doesn't have the cash to pull the trigger right away. And you'll be able to offer them, from what I'm able to gauge on GreenSky's website at least, limits up to $55,000 is what they say on their website. So a good chunk of money. And that financing can actually go not just towards Control4's hardware, but somewhat interestingly can also cover, I guess, some third-party devices. Surely the stuff on Control4's website, things like Leaf and some of the other lines that they sell, I think Luxol and things like that. I'm curious what other hardware that will extend to, but it will also extend towards install costs. So it's kind of a comprehensive home technology financing package, which I found pretty interesting.
I've done a couple of these financing things in the past, not really in residential. I mean, I try not to because it seems to kind of confuse things, but mostly in commercial. And I've found them to work extremely well for getting the project started off the ground and done. Where the pain point occurs is like when there needs to be some service, and you're a year out, your warranties are all over, and the client's calling for service, and they're still paying. They're still paying on this 3 or 5 year note. And
I could see that.
Yeah, so they still think that we're on the hook for warranties and stuff. So I wonder how that's all going to play out for Control4 dealers in the residential area. And it's financing's always been tough to get on resi projects. So this sounds very interesting, and I'm curious, as anybody is using residential type, this type of product, because I mean, this stuff exists. We used to use GE Finance a lot in the past that would do residential financing. I'm curious if anybody's doing that. Let us know. Just reach out to us on Twitter or run over to HomeTech.fm/feedback and let us know if you're having any success with that and how it's working out for you. Or if you're not having any success, let us know too.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to me. I actually, to be totally honest, didn't realize that it was, prior to researching this story a little bit, didn't realize that it was even prevalent at all in the residential side. It's not something that I, in my decade plus of doing this, have ever really been exposed to directly, but it turns out that it is out there. So this isn't a completely novel concept by Control4. CE Pro article that I read mentions the fact that some industry like buying groups will offer it. I did a couple of quick Google searches and it looked like, the one that I pulled up right away, the kind of big name that people might know was AussieOwn Unlimited buying group. And they do, like you said, Seth, through GE. And so there are some options that have been out there on the residential side that I actually wasn't aware of. I don't have any direct experience, like you said. I'll echo what you said. I'd love to hear from our listeners to find out, if people have direct experience doing this. If you're an end user, maybe did you finance a system, or if you're an integrator, have you offered this sort of thing before? And if so, or I should say, if not, are you planning to? Does this Control4 offering resonate with you? Is it something that gets you excited? I mean, right in the press release, they essentially talk about the fact that they're not really doing this as a means to boost their bottom line per se. They just think that it will help speed up the sales cycle, so get more things through the pipeline quicker. I suppose there's some truth to that. I just don't know. Like you said, financing is one of those tricky things to get right. And I think it does add a layer of complexity that maybe a lot of integrators, particularly at the lower to middle end of the market, might not really be prepared or willing to deal with. I don't know. It's interesting. And I thought your point was really interesting about sort of the expectation of consumers. It does add a layer, I suppose, of expectation management to where if that consumer is still paying, on a 3 or 5 year financing plan, you have to be very careful about setting that expectation that doesn't mean their system is under warranty for the life of that financing. So that was a great point. I actually had not thought of that.
Yeah, and another thing that I've thought about this quite a bit, because we were using it a little bit in commercial side, and we did have the option. We're part of one of those large nationwide buying groups. AIN, I think, is who we're still part of. I've just known about that GE financing for a long time, and I was thinking about it, and it's like the people that you and I target as our go-to clients are not exactly strapped for cash. Like it's financing an audio video system. It's probably something that they're not needing to do. It's pennies on the dollar for the type of homes that they're building and putting together. It's a very small percentage of the overall project cost. So a lot of the times in the past, I've seen people, and this was done, before the Great Recession, like where they were rolling in the entire audio, video, and home theater into the mortgage. That is, I think, done quite a bit less these days, at least in my experience. But who knows? I think it's all that's kind of coming back.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. Right.
But yeah, I just I'm curious as to if how this is working for anybody who is using financing, like how well it's working, and what their general feeling is from it, like what the feedback they get from their clients, and if you're, like you said, if you're someone who has financed a home automation, home audio video package, like let us know what your experience was there too. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, and I think kind of in closing on this story, I'll mention C4 dealers will be able to sign up for this in January of 2016, so not out just yet, but coming right up. And I just think, kind of the thing that resonated with me when I read the press release is they made a specific mention in there, and I'm quoting here, as smart home technology has increasingly become part of the infrastructure of a home, and then it goes on. And basically that caught my attention because if you'll recall from our CEDIA wrap-up show not that long ago, and my discussion at the show with Control4, I discussed with you on the show how they were really, that was sort of their approach, and they look at themselves as an infrastructure company, and they're, Martin Plain, the CEO, is pretty adamant about Control4 not being a gadget company. They're not about gadgets and things like that. They're viewing themselves as an integral part of the infrastructure of today's home. And I think that this offering by them sort of speaks to that in a sense that they view home technology as integral enough that they believe consumers will be willing to take on essentially a loan to finance home technology in a new home project. So I'll be curious to watch this as it rolls out and just keep an eye maybe on their earnings calls to see how much this is discussed and what kind of news we can get in terms of how well it works out.
Well, exactly. I'll be, like you said, interested to see if anybody's doing this, and we'll keep an eye on it in the future. Interesting you mentioned CEDIA there, because CEDIA had their State of the Association video they put out, and you actually sat down and watched this thing. I gave it a shot. Yeah. I honestly did.
Yeah, you did.
It's a little dry.
It was a little bit dry. I had it playing sort of in the background while I was doing some work and jotted down a couple quick notes as I sort of heard things that were relevant. It was hosted as a live webinar. I was not able to make it live. I had some scheduling conflict, but they had put it up on YouTube, and we can include a link to that in our show notes, and people can go and watch it if they so choose. But I think we can kind of just hit on the bullet points and some of the things that I thought were particularly relevant about their State of the Association address. And I thought really from if we start from a very high level, kind of the overall view, there was just really a lot of emphasis on, the community aspects of CEDIA, providing resources for the integrators, and very big emphasis on really messaging and getting the kind of that core value proposition of being a certified CEDIA integrator out there to the broader market, the consumers and our industry trade partners and builders and people like that, so that they understand the value of what a CEDIA integrator can do and why that's important. And so those were kind of the overall themes that I noticed from the call that I thought were, particularly kind of relevant, not to say that they were surprising. I mean, that was what I expected to hear, but I thought it was worth noting.
Yeah, well, and one of the things you have here on your bullet points is the requirements over in the UK. I did actually hear that part where they were talking about integrator over there, like to even submit a quote. One of the builders was requiring them to be a CEDIA member. Which I thought was really interesting, because I think I can probably count on no hands how many builders know what CEDIA is that I actually work with on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's a very striking difference with what happens overseas with CEDIA and the CEDIA organization in general as to what it looks like here in the States.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and great friend of the show, Chris Gamble, who started the live install hashtag, and we've given him a number of shout outs on the show. That's a great kind of group and community of people that he's really rallied together. And I suspect, I don't actually know, but Vin Bruno, the CEO of CEDIA, as he was kind of telling the story, he mentioned a particular integrator over across the pond that he had sat down and met with. And that may have been Chris. I happen to know Chris and I were chatting, and he and Vin had met and talked about some things. And I know that Vin and the guys at CEDIA are paying attention to live install, because what Chris and that whole crew have managed to do around that simple hashtag and is sort of build a community and really emphasis on the educational aspect and on people helping each other out. And I know from what Chris mentioned to me that CEDIA was interested to learn more. And I think that's pretty cool that they took the time to reach out and kind of pick his brain a little bit. And I don't know for sure that the story Vin was telling was about Chris, but I suspect it might have been. And the story basically had to do with this integrator who couldn't get projects over there if he wasn't a member of CEDIA, which, like you said, I thought was really interesting. Most of the builders, I think probably I would venture to say all of the builders that I work with have never heard of CEDIA unless I've told them about it, or maybe another integrator has happened to mention it in passing conversation. So I think the contrast there of what's going on with CEDIA and some of their initiatives here. He also mentioned that CEDIA over in the UK had received what he called the City and Guilds accreditation in the UK, which basically means that they're a quote unquote government accepted training body. And I'm actually not sure exactly what that means in practice, or if CEDIA has kind of the equivalent thing here in the US, but thought it was interesting. There was quite a few mentions of what's going on over in the UK during this call. So just to hear about that contrast and kind of some of the differences, I thought was intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, I would venture to imagine like what our market would look like if like a CEDIA accreditation or membership was required to bid on projects here in the States. Like, I'm not sure how, if it would be better or worse. I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely would, I think, go a little bit further. Maybe better in general. Because right now I don't feel that like our industry has any standards whatsoever. CEDIA, and I think we talked a little bit about House a couple episodes back, have been trying to, or are trying to make those standards something that we kind of would live up to and when we're installing a home automation system. So I was listening to the AV Shop Talk, and you weren't in it. It was just Nate driving solo, but he was talking about his Infocom, I think CTSD accreditation he was going in for.
Yeah.
I mean, holy cow, there's a lot that goes on to like just getting that accreditation, and that's all pretty much geared towards like commercial, and for what he's doing. We don't really have that at all on the Resi side. And I think, I don't know, like I'm thinking of the projects that I've had to deal with in the past, like how much that would slow down the process of bidding and quoting out a job. Like if you had to go through all those steps that I think they would want you to go through to like put a CTS stamp on a design. But then again, like if it was that was the norm, maybe some of the Resi systems that we've put in would work a lot better, like they'd be designed right from the beginning.
Yeah. Enough said. No, I get it. And I think that there is an effort by CEDIA to put more emphasis on these certifications. They talked about sort of standardizing the naming conventions on the certifications globally so that it's the same. And apparently there wasn't a lot of standardization on that front before, which I didn't realize. But, now they're basically saying that internationally it's going to be the same certifications, and it's, ESC and the ESCT, which is like technician, D for design, and N for networking. So very similar in that sense to what Infocom does with the CTS certifications, trying to make that more prevalent, I guess, and really encouraging their members to market themselves based off of that. That was message, they hit on that message pretty heavily during the call, and I thought that was interesting. And like you said, we just don't see as much of that on the residential side. For better or worse, it just hasn't been as prevalent, and I think that CEDIA is really, really pushing to change that, and I'll be curious to see how it works out for them. You had mentioned when you were talking House, and I actually thought, I'd made a particular note of that because I thought there was a segment of the call where they really got into talking about CEDIA's career center initiatives, where they're really trying to help get more people into the workforce. They talked about connecting students graduating, quote, in the field. I kind of made a note, like, what field does that mean really? Because there's really no traditional degrees that I'm aware of that lend themselves directly to working in our field, which may or may not change. But I think the broader message and what they were trying to get across did resonate with me, and that is that education is big. And I think trying to bolster our workforce, I think it's really, I was actually in a conversation with my family over Christmas and this kind of came up loosely, and was just talking about, if you're a really qualified home technology specialist and you know what you're doing in this field, you can really find work just about anywhere. It's not the most lucrative thing. You don't get into this business to get rich, but there are plenty of jobs out there because our industry is really hurting for qualified people. And they had mentioned that they're hearing that from CEDIA members across the board. No surprise at all to me. And I think really that is the job of an organization like CEDIA, to get in and to help our industry do that. And I know House is kind of trying to take that initiative. Again, I'm not totally sold on their approach, and I don't know that it's going to work. I commend them for trying to. I think that particular aspect of what they're trying to do is commendable, and I think that it is needed in the market. I just see it as more the job of a trade organization. to go in and do that. And they mentioned things just like benchmarking studies that you could get access to, which is another thing that House was kind of pitching themselves on, so that you can really, as a CEDIA member, kind of compare yourself, your metrics to other integrators to see how you're doing. Are you doing things right? Are there things you can improve? So there was a lot of that. And I just thought those were two particularly interesting aspects that kind of resonated with me, because I think a rising tide, raises all ships. And I would like to see continued efforts from CEDIA on that front to kind of bolster our workforce in this industry.
Yeah, and they should also give away Savant dealerships with CEDIA membership.
Oh man,
don't
get me started. No kidding.
That was pretty cool. I did kind of skip towards the end there and notice that they were doing the lead generation thing. That the collecting. There's always been a I'm interested in having a smart home link on the CEDIA website. Find a professional installer type thing, and you could go in and find whoever. I noticed that they were talking about doing a little bit more with that in the future too for their members, which is always a good thing to help people who are interested in this type of product find qualified installers to put it in.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think that in closing, probably one of the most ambitious suggestions that I heard them mention coming from a member, and I don't know if this suggestion was made seriously or kind of tongue-in-cheek, but they mentioned that somebody had requested CEDIA go out and take the initiative to place an ad in the Super Bowl. And I kind of about fell out of my chair when I heard that. I just did a quick Google search here. 2015, so last year, a Super Bowl ad would cost you $4.5 million a piece. And something tells me that CEDIA probably doesn't have the kind of budget that would allow them to go out and do that. So I thought that was kind of silly.
Well, I mean, they have all those great videos by the guy who makes the raps. Can't remember his name off the top.
Oh, Hi-Fi.
Hi-Fi, yeah. We just get him to do this on the cheap. Totally on the cheap.
Yeah.
It would represent the industry very well. And he can wear his onesie. And yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We'll put a link to all that in the show notes. So if you're interested to know the video that we're talking about, it'll be in the show notes. You can watch it.
Go check that out. Definitely worth a minute of your time.
Absolutely.
And I think he mentioned that Super Bowl ad just sort of in passing. It wasn't something they spent a lot of time on. Again, I suspect that suggestion was probably made tongue in cheek. But the point that he made addressing that is that CEDIA is, as far as doing any sort of advertising and trying to promote awareness of CEDIA and of the integrators that are part of the channel, that really they're looking to do, not quick flash in the pan type of advertising like a 30-second Super Bowl ad, for instance, but things that are more sustainable and just trying to get the message out there in a more kind of continuous way to just slowly and kind of, I guess, organically build that general awareness. And I think that's smart. And wish the new board luck in those endeavors, and we'll be very curious as always to see what the year brings for CEDIA.
Yeah, and I mean commercials are not. I mean, they're expensive to put together these days, but definitely not expensive to distribute. You don't have to pay $1 million or how many $1 million to be in the Super Bowl. You could just put them up on YouTube and try and get them to spread virally through either your members or, somebody stumbling across them with a quick Google search, So
sure.
That's a smart thing. I'm glad to see CEDIA is doing something like this. Their new branding, while I'm not like a huge fan of it, it's good to see that they're doing something to move the organization forward and get it in front of more people. Yeah,
definitely. Vin Bruno actually mentioned that CEDIA has, and again, quoting here, more swagger than ever. And I got a kick out of that. I don't know, but I like it.
There you go.
CEDIA needs to have a little bit of an edge, and I think they're really getting away from using, and I actually didn't realize this. I stumbled across a story, I don't even remember how, in the last week or two, that the CEDIA trade show is no longer going to be called Expo. And I don't know if you knew that, Seth. I didn't realize that. And they were basically saying that that's kind of a stale term to use for it. And to be honest, the name is escaping me, the future home, something or other that they're going to call it now. But in general, I just think that the rebranding and really messaging around the value that an integrator can bring to the home technology equation, and kind of getting away from just this notion of we're out selling gadgets and selling devices and really, again, messaging around that value and what a home technology specialist can provide and can add in terms of value to that equation. So I think it's a commendable effort, and I think that CEDIA is generally heading in the right direction. And once again, just look forward to seeing what the year has in store for them.
Yep, sounds good to me. The 2016 sounds like it's going to be a fun year, both on the do-it-yourself side with finding out what we're going to get out of CES in the next couple of weeks, and then of course on the CEDIA side, we'll see what they're going to do over the next year.
You got it. Well, I think we'll wrap up here. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in to our episode of Home Tech. Once again, if you're listening to this on the day it comes out or shortly thereafter, we hope you had a great New Year's Eve. Wish everybody kind of happy and prosperous New Year. And we thank you so much for another great year. Seth and I have had a great time putting this show together and really just watching the community grow and getting great feedback from our listeners. And we'd encourage you to keep that coming. Connect with us over on Twitter at HomeTech Podcast. Check out our Patreon page if you're interested in supporting the show. You can learn more about that at HomeTech.fm/support. And that'd be a great thing for you to do. Also, if you haven't before, we'd encourage you once again to take a few minutes and just go and leave a review for us on iTunes. That's always greatly appreciated and really helps more people discover the show.
Absolutely. We'll put all the links to everything that we talked about in the show tonight over on the website. It's HomeTech.fm/shows/92 or just HomeTech.fm/92. Everything will be there, and just click through and read or watch the good old video that we'll definitely be posting.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, Seth. Well, hey, I wish you a happy New Year as well, and look forward to sitting down and chatting with you next week.
Sounds good. Jason, I'll see you next year.
All right, you got it. Take care.